All right, folks, welcome to another edition of Outspoken. I'm Dan Sileo. What a great time of the year. Spectacular week in sports, weekend as well. NBA and NHL playoffs are now set. We are now past the 50-game mark of Major League Baseball and, of course, the NFL news. But let's get into some of the storylines. That is, of course, the NBA Finals being set. This is must-view television. This is what we call appointment-setting television. You now have the New York Knicks versus the San Antonio Spurs. Listen, last year OKC versus the Indiana Pacers wasn't cutting it. Nobody watched that thing, but this year you've got legendary stories that could become absolutely part of the fabric of the NBA's history. Jalen Brunson, maybe the Jalen Hurts of the NBA. Nobody said this guy was going to be the player that he is. Remember, when this guy came out of Villanova, having won 2 national championships, this guy was a second-round draft choice, and now all of a sudden, he's the face of New York. Of all the athletes in New York right now, there is no bigger athlete right now than Jalen Brunson, and that includes Aaron Judge of the Yankees. He's on the cusp of potentially doing something that we haven't seen since Clyde Frazier won the NBA championship back in the early 70s. This is an incredible run. Plus, you have arguably one of the worst owners in all of major sports in James Dolan. What does he do? James Dolan, a year ago, he fires Tom Thibodeau. He brings in Mike Brown. Everyone questioned that move, and what happens? They end up going to the NBA Finals the following year. This is an incredible run for the New York Knicks. Then you have the San Antonio Spurs. You want to hear something wild? The average age of the starting 5 for the San Antonio Spurs is 22 years of age, 364 days. It's one of the youngest groups we've ever seen make the NBA Finals. And you've got, of course, the face of that franchise, Victor Wembanyama. I mean, look, he's so ahead of schedule. There's no question that you're looking at something that maybe 5-6 years from now, we could be talking that this could be one of the greatest players in the history of the sport, because they're calling him the alien, a unicorn. We've not seen anybody like this since Kareem. You're talking a 7'5" Kareem, and here he is, such an early age, in the NBA Finals, and now you've got Spurs and Knicks. Madison Square Garden, appointment-setting television. Stars will be everywhere when they get to games 3, 4, and 5 in the Garden. This is going to be great television, and the NBA so needs this. We haven't seen this, like I said, maybe since the Jordan era, where you had these compelling stories, or maybe even LeBron, when LeBron's Cavalier team took on that Golden State Warriors team. This is absolutely incredible for the NBA. A year where they really haven't had any storylines during the regular season. Now you have an opportunity at some appointment-setting television when it comes to the NBA Finals. All right, so NHL Finals. You've got some storylines here. In my opinion, one of the greatest playoffs you could possibly have, because you really don't know who's going to end up making to the NHL and Finals. You have no idea. Here we have it. The Las Vegas Golden Knights versus the Carolina Hurricanes. So many superstar storylines here. John Tortorella, who I love, great friend of the program and a great friend of mine. I know him all the way back to his time when he was with the Tampa Bay Lightning and he won a Stanley Cup back there with St. Louis and Vinny LeCavier. There's no doubt he takes over the Las Vegas Golden Knights late in the year. He could become one of only 8 men in the history of the sport to win a Stanley Cup championship, having taken over a team so late. Tortorella's not for everyone. Doesn't really last at a place for a long period of time. But the impact that he made on this Golden Knights team, you're seeing it on the ice. The guys are playing for him. The guys want to play for him because Tortorella is one of the best coaches in the history of the NHL. Go over to the other side of this. Rob Brind'Amour, and the coach of the Carolina Hurricane, won a Stanley Cup ring with the Carolina Hurricane as a player. Now you have an opportunity to win a Stanley Cup in the same barn as a coach. Rob Brind'Amour, the face of the Philadelphia Flyers back in the day. Now he's the face of the Carolina Hurricane. And for all of you out there, too, let's not forget, they are the old school New Haven team, again, that ended up the Hartford Whalers. back in the day. So this is kind of something for me because that was my team growing up, going up to New Haven and watching the Hartford Whalers play. But that's who this is. Absolutely spectacular to see these two teams get a shot at putting their name on the cup. Incredible. All right. So we have friends of the program here. Okay, so this weekend has been pretty remarkable. I want to start it off here with Bobby Valentine. The New York Mets honored Bobby Valentine on Saturday. We'll talk more about Valentine and what he means to me here. But going back in what they did on Friday, here's Bobby V with the first pitch here. But let me tell you, too, what I loved about the fact, look at the mustache. He goes out, he brings the mustache back. Everyone remembers what he did when he had the mustache. He gets thrown out of a game. And there's legendary Bobby V, who, by the way, will be on the program next week. He goes into the New York Mets Hall of Fame on Saturday. Bobby V was one of the greatest athletes in the history of Connecticut sports. He got over 200 offers to play football, not just baseball, but 200 offers to play football. He went to Ripperwam High School, a high school that I competed against, obviously a little older than me. But Bobby V was one of the greatest athletes in the history of Connecticut sports. He was supposed to take over for O.J. Simpson at USC and be the running back there. He ended up going to Southern Cal, ended up getting drafted by the Dodgers, and then obviously he ends up punching his ticket with the New York Mets as a player, and he ends up going into the Hall of Fame. Congratulations to you, Bobby V. We love you very much. He's related to us, and we think so highly of him, and we always love his friendship with us. Now, the other guy is my guy, Michael Irvin. So Michael Irvin, going to Dallas Cowboys OTAs. Let me hook you up on Michael Irvin and who he is. Another friend of the program, by the way, and a former teammate of mine. I've known Michael Irvin for over 40 years. And the impact that Michael Irvin has on people's lives because of the ups and downs that he's gone through in his life has been remarkable. Everyone knows the story, and we've seen Michael Irvin grow up in front of us. I love this guy. He's one of my brothers. And as I've said, we're friends for over 40 years. As a teammate at the University of Miami and a small teammate of mine when I was with the Dallas Cowboys, Michael Irvin, I get a lot of people telling me, hey, the stuff that Irvin does on the sidelines during Hurricane games, man, it's a little bit obnoxious. I'm like, well, wait a minute here. Michael Irvin's been doing that since he was 19 years of age. This is nothing new. Michael Irvin is one of the greatest teammates and one of the greatest people I've ever known as a friend. He's won at every level. He won when he was at St. Thomas Aquinas, a state championship. Obviously, he won a national championship and 3 Super Bowl titles, and now he has a gold jacket. One of the greatest men I've met, one of the greatest friends I have. And believe me, when Irvin talks, it was never about statistics. It was always about winning. Michael Irvin wanted to be the best teammate he possibly could be, and he was. Now, if he's an adversary, Michael Irvin is one of the worst players that you could ever play against because he will be in your face. I've never seen anybody like it, in your face. He's one of the worst people when you're playing against. But when he's one of your teammates, he is without a doubt one of the absolutely greatest teammates I've ever had. And I'll never forget him wearing a clock around his neck. He came up to me and he looked at me and he said, hey, look, if I get to 4-5, I'm going to Canton. He was 17 years old when he said that. All right. My great friends at Morgan & Morgan, the #1 injury law firm in all of America for a reason. That's because they win. Over 25 years ago, this company was formed to protect families like yours all across this great country. They have attorneys coast to coast representing everyone, like the family in Pennsylvania that was initially offered $650K. They got nearly $30 million in settlement. How about also the family in Florida that was initially offered $350,000? They got nearly $12 million in settlement. Go to forthepeople.com/big sales or pound law 529. That's forthepeople.com/big sales or pound law 529. And do me a favor. You tell them Big Sills sent you. We are going to talk some Major League Baseball. By the way, he's also a Cowboy fan. We're going to talk a little Michael Irvin with him next. Appreciate everybody coming aboard with us here on this Sunday here. But before we get into Major League Baseball, George Kurtz is a Dallas Cowboy fan, and Michael Irvin. What does Michael Irvin mean to George Kurtz as a Cowboy fan?
Well, you go back to the 90s. It was just, for me personally, probably the salad days of sports, right? I was a Yankee fan. They were winning. Cowboys were winning again. Islanders maybe not so much. Michael Irvin, in my mind, listen, love Emmitt Smith, love Traquin, but Irvin was the sort of the engine that ran that team, right? He was the energy guy. I mean, all I can remember, first down, when he get the big sign for first down, he was the guy you wanted to watch. When he was breaking, he didn't have big speed, right? He was, for an athlete, I would say average speed. But when he was breaking away at a catch because he broke a tackle, broke two, that was magic. It was just, it always sounds weird if you see a professional athlete to thank them, but Irvin, Aikman, Smith, they were a big part of my 90s winters, right? How well they played for the Cowboys. So much fun to watch. Love Michael Irvin. One of my favorite players. I mean, I go back to the 70s with Drew Pearson, Tony Dorsett, Staubach, and all those guys. But Michael Irvin, just magnetic. I think if I was going to describe one word to Michael Irvin, it'd be magnetic. He was just that kind of guy.
No doubt. He was the attitude of that team back in the day when Jimmy was building that team. He just brought that attitude and that desire to win. It was just an incredible time watching that Cowboys team being built. I was there when it was 1-15. And when they were just turning that whole thing around, it was incredible here. So let me pivot and drop a bunt to you here and go to some baseball. 50 games plus now. George, are you a fan of the ABS?
Yes. Yes, I am. I've been a proponent of robot umpires for a long time here now. I wish they would actually expand it. On Long Island here, we go to Long Island Duck games, and they have not ABS. Every call is automatic. You don't even notice it. The umpire's wearing a little earpiece like this. Pitch, strike, ball. It's just you don't notice it, and we get it's not so much getting the calls right. I understand they're not going to be perfect with the umpire with the robots. I get that, but it's the same for everybody. The strike zone's not changing inning to inning, batter to batter. All right, because there's a Hall of Famer on the mound doesn't mean he gets a 24-inch strike zone, or because Aaron Judge is at the plate, he doesn't get a smaller zone. Everyone gets the same zone here. The calls are more uniform here. So yes, I am a big fan of the ABS. I'd like to see them expand it, Dan.
So this week they started the negotiations on Thursday between the union and Rob Manfred in Major League Baseball and the owners. First thing that was brought up obviously was a salary cap that we're talking of implementing one in a floor of $171+ million. I said this, George, and you tell me if you agree or disagree. The reason the salary cap in the NFL works is because the contracts are not guaranteed. If you get into a position where you got a Bo Bichette contract and the guy's not hitting his body weight, I mean, you're stuck with that contract. I mean, how do you think Major League Baseball gets around this? And by the way, the union is saying absolutely no way are they going to go with a salary cap. Is there going to be a work stoppage, you think, in December?
Oh, yeah. Oh, in December, 100%. All right. The question is, how many games are we going to miss next year? All right. That's going to be the question here. If I had to guess, we're going to miss games. There's no way. Let's just say the season's going to start on March 28th. There's no way the season's starting on March 28th. Could it start in April? Possibly. May? Possibly. That's really where the question remains here. The owners, this is the first time in 32 years since 1994 that they're asking for a cap. All right, so it's going to be a problem. The players have been steadfast against the cap forever, going back to Marvin Miller, all right, and Donald Fear and all that. So it's going to be very difficult to get that. It's certainly, if they do get somewhat of a cap, it won't be what we've heard. Max 245, minimum 171. That's not happening. It'll probably be somewhere around $100 million to throw the 245 to 345, and the 171 will be lower to around a 120. I just did the math the other day on this. Let's just say it was 245 and 171. The teams that underspend would need to spend about $800 more million to get up there. Yeah, good luck with that. Good luck getting those owners to agree to spend that. And the teams that are over the cap would need to lose about $250 million. That's the Dodgers, Yankees, Mets. There's only 6 teams that are over, and a couple of them are just barely over. Dodgers and Mets lead that. So it's not going to be the way it was. Will the system change? Yeah, it's going to change. Do I think it needs to change? Probably. A hard cap? No. I think there'll be some kind of soft cap, Dan. I think that's what they'll eventually agree to, some kind of soft cap, but it's going to be a mess. So to answer your question, I would be floored. I hope so. I love baseball. I want games to start on time next year. I have a funny feeling we're not playing. I would give the over-under around May 15th.
Wow. Okay. Here, one other thing here too, like you just mentioned, Rays spend $100 million. You mean to tell me would have to spend almost another $100 million, which they've only been 24th in the league when it comes to salary cap? You want them to go to 171? That ain't happening. I don't get it here. And one of the things here, George, that the NFL players hate, they hate being categorized. So you would have to categorize players like first baseman, second baseman, third baseman, catchers. You see, when you're the best player in baseball, you get 50, 60 plus $1 million. When you're the best tight end, you get 20. When you're the best quarterback, you get north of 50. You think guys like Scott Burrows are going to go like this? Hey, no, we're going to start categorizing players. That's not happening, George.
No, because it's a little different in baseball than football, because generally in baseball, your first and third baseman, that's your power positions, right? Second baseman, shortstop, that's your table setters here, right? Same thing with the corner outfielders and the center fielder. It's going to be very difficult because not every first baseman is going to hit 40 home runs or 30 home runs. Not every third baseman is doing that. We all know if you're a fantasy player, third base is a vast wasteland. In fact, there's not too many good third basemen out there. What do you pay a catcher? Remember, they're so good on defense, but they're hitting 210 with 7 home runs and 42 RBIs at the end of the year. Because defense is more important. How do you categorize that? What's more important as a pitcher? Innings, wins, quality starts, strikeouts. So good luck with doing all of that here. It won't be a cap like there is in football or hockey for that matter. I don't know much about the NBA cap, but I think from what I do know about the NBA cap, it'll be close to an NBA cap, like a softer cap here is what they might be able to agree upon here. But even that, it's going to be a mess. We're going to hear so much mudslinging between now and with the agreement. We're already hearing it, right? And whatever you're hearing now, you just throw it out the window, right? Because they're going to fight. It's what they do. Oh, we're right. They're terrible. They hate the fans. No, they hate the fans. No one cares about the fans, by the way. Don't you think they do? They do not. They care about money. That's all either side cares about. If the owners are asking for something, it's good for them.
Billionaires and millionaires always arguing. That always really translates with the fans, doesn't it, George? Sitting around two guys barking over billions of dollars here. We're going to talk some Major League Baseball, and we're going to talk what's going on. Plus 50 games here. What's up with these Braves? Where did the Braves come from? Right now they're 40-19. We'll talk more with George Kurtz next, right here on SportsGrid. there's been so many great storylines in the early part of the season. We're north of 50 games now. George Kurtz joins us here to talk some MLB. 40-19, George. I mean, the Atlanta Braves, they're finally going back a little bit to their old school mentality, like back in the days with John Sherholtz and Bobby Cox with starting pitching, defense, and now they're getting those timely hitting guys here. Are you surprised where the Braves are?
Yes. Yeah, I think that's safe to say. Not that I thought they'd be bad. Did not think they'd be bad. I thought they'd be a solid team, but I did not see 40-19. All right. I just thought when I saw this team, okay, offense looks good, right? Acuna, Riley. I thought Albies would have a rebound year here. I like some of the other bad. Baldwin, by the way, before the injury, wow, was this guy he was fantastic. He was an MVP consideration there. But I was worried about the pitching, Dan. I mean, okay, Chris Sale, fine, but you worry about a guy built, like a string bean, and then who's had injuries in the past, up there in age. Strider was coming back from TJ. And then they had all the injuries in spring training, right? Schwellenbach, gone. Scheuer, gone. Waldrop, to a lesser extent. But a lot of their depth was gone. I didn't trust Grant Holmes, didn't trust Elder. Martin Perez, who they've resurrected from the dead. And also, they're getting the pitching here. They're hitting. They're a fun team to watch here. But once again, 40-19? No. I thought, okay, they'll compete with Philadelphia. They'll be a good, solid team, but I did not see 40-19. And I'm going to tell you a little pet peeve of mine for everybody who likes to bring up these statistics. Heard it last night. Oh, this is the first time the Braves have had 40 wins before June in their history. Very true. We also start games 2 weeks earlier now in March. All right, we no longer start the first full week in April. So I just hate stats like that when we don't put it in perspective here, that we start games a lot earlier in this day and age.
There's George with context, as always. I appreciate that. That's for sure here. Hey, Bobby V goes into the Mets Hall of Fame. Characters in baseball, I mean, you go back in the days, you're talking about Casey Stengel and guys like that with great personalities. Bobby V to you. What does Bobby V and Mets baseball, and how do you look at Bobby V in his career? We're very close to him. We love him very much. And he was just a centerpiece with the Mets and a character.
You just said the last word you said there is my first word for Bobby V would be character, right? Knows baseball, probably knows more about has forgotten more about baseball than most people know, right? He's been around the game forever. He's good for the game. Right? I understand injuries really derailed what he could have been, but he's good for the game of baseball. But yes, when you Bobby V, first thing you think of, okay, the mustache, all right, the fake mustache coming back into the dugout. Yeah, it's the first thing I think of course. How could I not? I might also think as a Yankee fan, okay, the Subway Series. Once again, he was the manager of the Mets when the Yankees won the Subway Series. First two things that come to my mind, but I do know his history with Tommy Lasorda of the Dodgers and everything that happened there. But good for the game. I think baseball needs more people like this. All right, I'm not just talking about smart baseball people. I'm talking about people who are fun, right? I think Bobby understands it's baseball. All right, we're not talking, World War IV here. We're talking about baseball, just baseball here, and enjoy the game. It's just a game here. So a lot of respect for Bobby V. I might argue, should he be in Mets Hall of Fame? I might argue that a little bit, but as anybody who's ever listened to me, read anything about me, I am very strict on the Hall of Fame. Okay, I think the Hall of Fame is for the best of the best of the best. And so many of these teams, including the Yankees, now they water it down by putting in people who are the Hall of Good. Well, the Hall of Very Good, not really the Hall of Fame. I think a lot of this, by the way, and I'm not saying it's about Bobby V, in general now, is about ticket sales, right? Oh, we have this day, we're going to get a sellout that day. Money, 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 money. So I'm very, very picky about that, including who gets elected into the Baseball Hall of Fame, which I think has become a joke of late as well.
Well, George, since you went there, do you think CC Sabathia should have been a Yankee Hall of Famer?
No. And I love CC. Love CC. Love everything he stood for with CC. I mean, CC was a great teammate. I'm not so sure he'd be a team Hall of Fame for anybody. Played for Milwaukee, Cleveland, Yankees. He's the Hall of Very Good for the Yankees. If he would have pitched his whole career for the Yankees, slam dunk, right? Slam dunk. We're not even talking about this. But just for once again, I think the Yankees wanted to say thank you for everything he did. And as a fan, like I said, loved CC. I'll never forget what he did in Tampa. All right, speaking of the Rays again, where they plunked one of his guys, and he knew he was going to get suspended and did not care. He was standing up for his teammates, and he plunked the guy right back. And who was going to charge CC? The man was a monster back then. A lot of respect for CC. Loved him as a Yankee fan, but no, he doesn't deserve that. Come on, it's the Yankees, man. I'm not so sure Tino Martinez should have been there. And once again, you talk about 4 or 5 World Championships, but no, best of the best. Don't water it down.
Well, I can only imagine when you think of Harold Baines then going into the Baseball Hall of
Don't start
Fame.
with me. Don't start.
This is I mean, I'm with you, man. Some of these guys are in the Hall of Decent, not in the Hall of Fame, and that includes Harold Baines, no?
I think that's what started this whole thing when people started to really realize it that, oh, this is good. This is not good. And once again, nothing against Harold Baines. Good ball player. He's the Hall of Good. Maybe the Hall of Very Good. Hall of Fame? Come on, man. There's many players who aren't in who you would easily take over Harold Baines. Come on, please.
Absolutely, man. I think that that Monument Park out there, Yankee Stadium. Now I see why they put it behind the fence where they used to have it on the field. Too many okay guys there. The legendary Rick Barry's next here on Sports Grid. I got to tell you, the Western Conference Finals was as entertaining as it gets. I mean, it has been absolutely spectacular. And to see those two teams going back and forth, I mean, if you look at how both teams were built, Sam Presti, obviously, what he's done with OKC, he's a disciple of what went on with the San Antonio Spurs back in the day. Rick Barry joins us now here. Rick, that was some Western Conference Finals. Thank you so much for doing this, man. I appreciate it. But, I mean, how did they get there? What did you think of the Western Conference Finals, Rick?
Well, I thought it was highly competitive. Obviously, both teams played exceptionally hard. Again, it was crazy physical. You know how that drives me nuts that they allow that to happen. But it's also gotten to the point now where the officials are letting the offensive players get away with murder. How many times you watch SGA push off before he shoots the ball with his arm? I mean, and they all do it now. It's crazy. I would wish I had that ability. You know how easy it is to get a shot off if I can go ahead and just move you back and go the opposite way. I mean, it's ridiculous that they let him get away with that. But you know, I'm a perfectionist, and so those kinds of things drive me nuts. But I love the competitiveness. I love the resilience of both teams coming back in different situations. But the better team actually won. I mean, come on, look at how many times they played during the regular season, and who won most of the majority of the games. So I don't know why everybody was saying that San Antonio didn't have a chance. I mean, San Antonio was a dominant team between the two of them with all the regular season contests they had and in the playoffs. Now, unfortunately, Oklahoma City they weren't at full strength. You know, they didn't have all their people ready and healthy. But, you know, but that's what happens in sports. But I just thought that San Antonio played exceptional. And the best thing for them was winning game 6, the way that they won it, to be able to go to play game 7. I mean, they manhandled. They really took care of business against OKC, and that's a great thing mentally to go into the next game knowing you have to beat them again, doing it so convincingly. I thought that was great for them, and I think they're going to cause the Knicks a lot of problems. The way that they played those last two basketball games. But the Knicks, I thought, were playing the best basketball of all the teams in the playoffs, both ends of the court, but the competition wasn't as tough. They didn't play against as many good teams as the teams in the West had to play. Now, here's the biggest thing, Dan. That long layoff is going to hurt the Knicks some because there's no way, I don't care how much you practice, how much you play in scrimmage, you're not going to be the same as playing actual competition against another team going into this first game. But for the Knicks, it's an advantage that they're playing the first game actually on the road, because if you're playing at home and you lose that first game because you really aren't playing at the same level you played prior to the break, now you've lost home court advantage. At least in their case, if they lose the first game, they still have another game and they had a chance to get themselves back together to hopefully play well enough to win a game, because they have to win a game in San Antonio to win the title and stay undefeated at home. So for them, it's an advantage. It's going to be interesting to see at what level the Knicks are able to play with that long, long layoff.
Hey, Rick, what about this? The Spurs team, 22 years of age, 364 days is their average age for the starting five. That's remarkable. I mean, this team
Yeah,
has a shot to be
it's
around for a long
unbelievable.
time.
Yeah, it really is unbelievable. My wife and I were talking about it the other day. I mean, if they don't screw around with guys wanting to leave and go someplace else and they want to try to create a dynasty and be in the same conversation with the Boston Celtics and what the Spurs did and what the Lakers have done over the different decades, they have a chance to do that. I mean, that's crazy. I mean, I don't think there's ever been a team in the history of the NBA that was so young and was able to be successful. So if they could pull off a victory in this one, it could be a good run for them. And the biggest thing with San Antonio, even my son Brent had the good fortune of being on two championships teams with them. They had a trouble back thing. It was hard. It's hard to do, to win back-to-back championships. But maybe they can pull it off, because it seemed like San Antonio would win, lose, win, lose. I mean, it was crazy. But this team has a chance to be a dominant team for a long time if everybody stays healthy and they stay together.
Rick, tell me what's the secret formula for San Antonio? They go through the Manu Ginobili, Tony Parker, and Tim Duncan run. They had obviously David Robinson there as well. And here they are again. They're duplicating it almost again with another foursome with these young players. Is it really that much a management issue where, again, look what the Bulls did back in the day with Krause and Reinsdorf from what they brought in and the kind of players they brought in? Is it really that important above what they're doing on the type of player that they're bringing in? Because nobody else can duplicate it, Rick.
Well, you can duplicate it if you know what the hell you're looking for. You got to pick the right people. I don't care who the coach is. It's a matter of getting the right personnel, the people who understand how to play the game the right way, the people who have a great feel for the game, who are unselfish, willing to do whatever's necessary to win, and and the kind of players that you love to play with as a player. So yeah, they've done a great job. It's the personnel. They've chosen great personnel. I love because Castle. He's like, wow. He's very exciting to be able to watch him play, and all those other young people. This is exciting for San Antonio fans, to be honest with you, and it's great for the game to see so many young players. And what a job they've done. And that comes down to what? It comes down to the draft. Who do you draft? R.C. Buford has done a great job for them. I mean, I don't think he gets enough credit, because the decisions that you make is the personnel that you bring, and that's where other teams get messed up. And I've said this before, and I know it probably got a lot of the scouts mad. I never mentioned any names, but I said some scouts wouldn't know really good talent if it walked up and bit them in the butt, because they get so hung up on athleticism. Athleticism is great, but only to a point. You have to know how to use the athleticism. And if I'm going to scout a player and I watch a player for 5 to 10 minutes, I can tell you whether or not I would want to have him. And it all boils down to the one element and the one characteristic that's so critical. Do you have a natural feel for the game? Because the other elements can be taught. I can teach you to become a better shooter. I can teach you to be a little smarter in this area, but I can't teach you the feel. the feel for the game. When I saw LeBron James play in high school, when they broadcast a high school game of it, I looked at him as, wow, is this guy going to be an amazing player? Now, he had shortcomings, his elbow flying out, shooting and all, but man, did he have a great feel for the game. And if you have that, that separates you from the other player. That makes the difference between a super player and a great player.
Ricky, I want to walk back on what you said. How much do you think the officiating really did dictate the pace of that series in the Western Conference? I mean, do you think it favored San Antonio more when they were able to do that and allow that kind of physicality? And do you think they'll take it into the NBA Finals?
Well, yeah, well, it'll be there. That's just what the thing is. It's playoff basketball, like they say. They just let it become overtly physical, and you have to be able to overcome that as a player. I mean, I realized that, having experienced what it was like, and you just have to play through it. You just have to hope that the officials, if nothing else, if they just would stay consistent in how they call the game. So if you're going to call the game and let it be very physical at the start of the game, you have to allow it to be very physical at the end of the game. The worst thing in the world as a player with officials is the officials who change the way they're calling the game during the course of the game. I would prefer them just to call the game according to the rule book and don't let the physical aspect of it get into it. I think it gives too much of an advantage to the defensive guy to be able to push and shove and hold. I mean, some of the stuff that Hartenstein was doing. I mean, I don't know if you saw the one the other day when Wemby was running down and he just took his shoulder and just drove it into his chest and knocked him down. It wasn't a whistle. I mean, stuff like that is just. I think it hurts the game when they allow it to get to that point. But maybe they're trying to even it up because they'll let the guys beat the hell out of them from the defender. But then they're letting the offensive guy get away with the off arm shoving the guy out of the way so that you can make space and get a shot off.
Absolutely, Rick. I can't wait. We're going to talk a little bit more about the finals. I want to get your takeaway about Jalen Brunson, too. And you mentioned something earlier about rest and how much you think that this is going to hurt, potentially, at least maybe in the first two games with the New York Knicks. We'll hit on that. We'll also talk about Wemby. I mean, he got better and better and better as the series went on. And that last game, he was absolutely great. More with the legendary Rick Barry next, right here on SportsGrid.
You wouldn't have your ex officiate your wedding.
Do you, Jake? Liar? Cheater? Gaslighter?
So why have anyone but America's largest injury law firm handle your injury case? With over $30 billion recovered for our clients, there's a reason to go big.
Gaslighter, coitus crier, he's got more red flags than a bullfighter's attire.
Morgan & Morgan, America's largest injury law firm.
I love my conversations with Hall of Famer, legendary Rick Barry here every single time we're fortunate enough to get him on. And the Wemby conversation. I mean, Rick, now here he is at 22 years of age. He's in the NBA Finals with a shot to put a ring on his finger. I mean, the sky's the limit. Obviously, what could we be saying about this guy in the next 7, 8, 9 years? I mean, could we be putting him up there? Look, I don't want to put the cart before the horse here or anything, but the skill set level that he has, what he can do all over the floor. I mean, the way the NBA is officiated, as you've mentioned before. I mean, what do you think is going to be the ceiling for this kid?
Well, it's just a matter of him staying healthy and how much he wants to continually work at the game. But obviously, he has the right attitude. Hell, he went off and spent time to get his mental frame back. I mean, that was pretty impressive. But here's the thing. Let's not compare him to Wilt Chamberlain. Let's not compare him to Shaquille O'Neal. Let's stop all that bullshit about comparing guys to different eras. He has a chance of being the most dominant big man during his era. And he would be the guy that you're going to look at from the center position, even though the center is really different because he plays outside shooting 3-point shots, so it's a little different. But yeah, he will be the preeminent big man unless somebody else comes along for his era, and he's going to get stronger. He's going to get more knowledgeable because he seems like a very intelligent young man. I'm looking forward to watching him. He's fun to watch play. He's an anomaly. I've never seen a guy his size be able to do the kind of things he does. The most athletic kind of big guy, but he wasn't 7'4". It was Olajuwon was pretty athletic and incredible. I remember when I was doing game stuff, he did a fadeaway jump shot from the baseline, missed it, and went down to the other end and blocked the fast break layup by the other team. I was like insane. So yeah, but he doesn't have the strength, obviously, but boy, and he's going to get stronger. They'll make him stronger. No question about it with all the technology that they have today. I remember seeing my son Canyon when he came home from college. All of us, I went to hug him, and I said, "What the heck? What?" It's like he was so much bigger and so much stronger. And that's what they do. I mean, that's the things that are available to him. So Wemby's going to be unbelievable as the things go on. But his other teammates, he's got some great young teammates. I hope they stay together. If they're smart, they will do that because you have something special that you can be the team that somebody talks about, from the mid 2020s up to the mid 30s, 2030s. It could be San Antonio that everybody's talking about if these guys all stay together.
Let me take you to a comment that you made earlier. The Knicks in rest. You think this is going to hurt this team as they get ready for the NBA Finals here with the first two games? You think this really hurts this team?
Well, I think it makes it difficult to go out and play at the same level. They were playing so well on both ends of the court, and it doesn't take long to lose that edge. And again, I don't care how much you scrimmage, whatever you're doing, it's not playing games, competitive games. And I will be shocked if they play at that level to start the series on the road. And but the only, like I mentioned earlier, the only good thing about it is that if they do struggle somewhat and they can't play well enough to beat San Antonio in San Antonio, they don't lose the home court advantage. If they were playing at home and had the home court advantage, I would be really concerned about it if I was a Knicks fan because it could have an impact on how well they play in that first game and how long it takes them to get back in sync again because they're just not going to be at that same level. It's an impossibility to be off that long and stay at that level.
Rick, take me back to my childhood here. How good was that 73 Knicks team with Monroe and Frazier and Bradley and the Busher and Holtzman coaching? How good was that team? And with all those legendary Hall of Fame players, how good was that team?
They were an outstanding team because they had great players who played the game the right way, pass, move, cut, tough defense. Some good individual defenders. Dave the Busher, one of the really outstanding individual defender. Clyde Frazier, the same way. And then they had Willis Reed, one of the best centers during his era. Earl Monroe, one of the most exciting players to play the game. And they had depth as well. And Phil Jackson defense with his long arms. So they had a lot going for him. And they had Bill Bradley, who was an outstanding professional player, great college basketball player, but knew how to play, pass the ball, just really a good team, just with depth. And that's what you have to win. But that's certainly, they were one of the better teams that the NBA's ever had when it comes to personnel.
Talk about the finals here. I mean, who do you favor? San Antonio going into
Yeah,
this
you
finals
got
here
to go
against
with
the
San. You
Knicks?
got to go with San. Yeah, you got to go with San Antonio, especially off of playing their best two best games of the championship in the Western Conference. They played out exceptionally well, and now to keep that going, yes, that's what what the Knicks were at the end of the finals in the East, but not having to take 9 days to be at that level. They just got done, and they're going to play a game coming up here fairly soon, and be playing outstanding basketball coming off a high. So the biggest question is, how quickly will it take the Knicks to get back to playing at the level that they finished the Eastern Conference in? If they can do that quickly, hey, anything can happen. I mean, it's interesting. The Carl Anthony Towns, what with him? How are they going to match up against him? There's a lot of interesting and intriguing matchups. Mitchell, how's he going to do? I mean, are they going to foul him a bunch in doing it? Pull him out and take Wemby to bring him away from the basket, because he's a liability when it comes to free throws. I mean, he's just horrible. So it's going to be fun to see what happens. He's a prime candidate for underhanded free throws. Last year, somebody asked me about him in the playoffs. I said he needs to switch. He should switch. And the thing is, he should do it for himself and for himself, his teammates, the team, the
Think we lost Rick Barry there a little bit. Rick Barry, obviously.
could be, block
No, I
shots.
got you.
He can do that.
Rick. Hey, Rick, one of the things that I loved about that underhanded shot, didn't you suggest that to LeBron James at one time?
No. I suggested it to Shaq, and Shaq said, "Rick, I'm a hip hop kind of guy. It'd be bad for my image." No, I didn't suggest that. What I suggested for LeBron is that somebody get his freaking elbow in, because he had a flying elbow and he had no chance of being a good shooter. And to his credit, he did do that, but he never did get to the point where he was an 80% free throw shooter. That was his Achilles heel.
Shaq didn't want to do it because it would ruin his image. And yet, Rick's one of the greatest, if not the greatest, free throw shooter in the history of the sport. Rick, the youngsters never learn, do they, my friend? I love it, Rick. Thank you so
I
much.
just don't know why. Why would somebody not want to make themselves better? And anyway, it's always fun to talk to you. I'm sure that they're going crazy. I can't believe what the Knicks tickets are going for. It's crazy, but it's going to be a fun, competitive series, and I'm looking forward to watching it. And hopefully, we'll talk again.
You got it. Thank you so much, Rick Barry. We appreciate you more than you know. We're going to go with Sileo Says next, right here on SportsGrid. So this Brendan Sorsby story is just not going away. The Texas Tech quarterback who lost his eligibility because of gambling. And now all of a sudden, he's going to be in a courtroom and he's going to be talking to the NCAA about getting his status back to play in college football. The NCAA says that Brandon Sorsby's college career should end for betting on his own team's games. According to court filings, the NCAA argues no major U.S. sports league has allowed an athlete who bet on their own team to continue competing. I usually don't agree with the National Communist Association of America, which is known as the NCAA. But in this, I do. Brendan Sorsby is betting on his own games. Let me put this out there to you. If you're a starting quarterback in the National Football League and you see a guy that's got habitual issues when it comes to gambling, you're going to put the football in the hands of that guy who's had numerous issues and lost his eligibility on potential point shaving? The National Football League right now, I get it. It's important for them to have gambling, FanDuel, all these DraftKings. It's important to have a relationship like that. And gambling is now fueling a lot of the economic resources that many of these major sports leagues have. But there's no way on the planet the National Football League is going to allow a guy into their sport that bet on games that could have dictated the outcome of games. That's just not going to happen. There's no way. I mean, the famous longest yard quarterback, Paul Carew, you're going to tell me you think you're going to put a guy in the National Football League or somebody's even going to draft a guy that's got this background of having potentially bet on games? Listen, even if he did or he didn't bet on his teams to lose, look at the ramifications that it had for Pete Rose. Pete Rose was not allowed in baseball's Hall of Fame. And let's not forget this. Rose was never, ever accused of being a bettor when he was a player. All of the issues that Rose had in his career were as a manager of the Cincinnati Reds. Rose did not gamble as a player, allegedly, and that still affected his status to go into the Baseball Hall of Fame. How in God's name are you going to allow a college kid to come into the game, you're not even sure he's going to be a great player or not, and allow him to get drafted, in the first round? You're 1st and 10 on the goal line, and you got a game on the line, or maybe you don't have a game on the line, and there's a point spread out there, and you got a kid who's got a gambling problem. They're on 1st and 10, and you think the National Football League is going to bring that kid into the league and have him quarterback one of these 32 football teams? Never in a million years. I hate to tell this kid, Brandon Sorsby, your career is over, kid. The ability for you to play further is not going to happen, especially in the NFL. Get this, the NFL will do this. You can have an issue with domestic violence. You can have an issue with all other things, taking knees, what have you, smoking weed, anything. When it comes to gambling, the National Football League is not going to allow this kid to go into the sport and have a football in his hand with 2 minutes or a minute left in a football game that could determine the point spread of a game and the outcome of a game. That's just not going to happen. He's been trying to get his eligibility back at Texas Tech through the NCAA because he knows that's his only resource, is to go through that process to try to rehabilitate himself in college football. The chances of him going and playing in the NFL without that, if this ruling doesn't go his way, and I don't believe it will, you're not going to see this kid ever play again. And he just signed a $6.1 million nil deal with Texas Tech to play for that college football team. The president of the university has already gone out and said that they're going to appeal it, and they're going to file the appeal to try to get this kid's eligibility back. This is not going to happen. The eligibility of this player has been lost. And look, I don't usually agree with them. I think the NCAA is one of the most detrimental things when it comes to players for over the last 50 years. They've never had the players' rights, and they've never really had the players' best interests at heart. This here, though, is going to be bigger than just a player. This is about a league's mentality. The National Football League frowns on this kind of stuff. When you walk into an NFL locker room, when I used to walk into an NFL locker room, and I used to see this big guy, he was dressed up in a full gear, and it says, Gambling is prohibited. No way, no shape or form. You will be, without a doubt, suspended for life. In every single NFL locker room, that is there. And when you walk in, that guy is still there on that poster when you walk into that locker room. And for Brandon Sorsby to think he's going to play in the National Football League, Roger Goodell is not going to have any team draft this guy, and nor will any team have an interest. It's a shame because the kid's a good football player. When he was at Cincinnati, when he was at Indiana, there was a lot of promise. But unfortunately, I hate to say this guy's career is over with. On a better note, one of the legendary men in NHL history, Grant Fuhr, is next here on the
Now we have to endure months of manufactured rumors about will he or won't he retire LeBron James. They are probably, Donnie, working on the Decision 2.0 for Amazon Prime as we speak. Is Jim Gray still around? But here is the beauty of the predictive markets. They make insufferable stories about insufferable people highly profitable.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
You can recruit super young talent that may go in the NBA. You can recruit older guys and have them grow up together. But if you want players to stay, either sign them to contracts or treat them well enough where they're going to stay. To me, it's pretty simple. And, you know, a lot of coaches last year had good years and they left skid marks on their schools and nobody said a word.
Outspoken with Dan Sileo, only on SportsGrid.
Mattingly is doing a great job, clearly, right? They're 16-4 since he took over, but we have to remember when Rob Thompson took over for the Phillies and they went 65-46 back in 2022, he finished 5th in NL Manager of the Year that year. So could Mattingly win it? Of course, but he doesn't really have history on his side. I'm still on Don Kelly 15-1 to win Manager of the Year.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
They're trading right now currently at 74 wins on the season, which means the Kalshi marketplace goes by 5-win intervals. 75 plus wins for those Houston Astros. That's a 49% contract to the yes, which a $100 investment pays back $205, Greg. I'm not high on this team. Look, again, 75 wins for the Astros is terrible, but this team might not even look the same as where we stand today by the time we get to that deadline.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
There's very few people that have made impacts on sports that they've played in. And this man here has made a gigantic impact on the NHL. He's one of the greatest goaltenders in the history of the sport. He is Grant Fuhr, and he joins us here. And we were just talking about those legendary teams. We had Kevin on with us a couple weeks ago. And Grant, I appreciate you doing this here. But those great Edmonton Oilers teams with Messier, you, with Gretzky, with Esatikin, and go down the list of all the great players, Paul Coffey. I mean, you look back on that right now, Grant, and think about all those great players. I mean, can you imagine what that thing would cost today in today's landscape of paying salaries and such? Can you imagine? I mean, one of the greatest teams of all time. How do you reflect on that?
You know what? Lots of great memories. I mean, I think I was pretty fortunate to play with a lot of great guys. And yeah, it'd be fun with the salary cap trying to fit everybody under it right now.
Absolutely here. So, hey, Grant, what do you think made those teams so special? I mean, what was the leadership on it? What was that like building those teams, especially when, you know, you're in an era where there wasn't a lot of movement in the NHL?
I think Glenn wanted to make it like a family atmosphere. I think we all played for each other. I think that was the biggest key. It was about winning. It wasn't about who made what. It was you wanted to win and you wanted to win for each other. So it was a very close-knit group.
When you played those Islanders, how important was it? The Islanders were coming into winning their 4th straight Stanley Cup. They had beaten you guys in the finals. How important was that for you guys moving forward and the development of you guys beating a dynasty like that? Because you guys created your own dynasty after that.
Well, I think you have to learn. And the best way to learn sometimes is getting beat. And when you get beat by the best, I mean, they were on top of the hill there for 4 years in a row. Yeah, we were a good hockey club, but we weren't a great hockey team. And you have to learn from a great hockey team. So by losing to the Islanders and the way we lost, we got swept. So I think by losing that way, it taught us that we had to be better. I mean, we still had more to give, and the Islanders gave everything they had. We thought we gave everything we had, but obviously there was a little bit more that we had to find.
Grant, I'm going to ask you this because I think it's one of the most important things that you have besides your legendary career playing on the ice. The first African-American goaltender to be on that Stanley Cup. Years removed from that, back then you're a player, you're worried about winning a cup. The significance, I'm assuming, it grows as you get older, and that legacy of yours grows as you get older. Talk about a little bit about that and how much and the importance of that too, and what it meant and what it means for you.
I think when you're playing, you hit the nail on the head. You're just a player. You're with a bunch of guys. You're just a piece of a team. But as you get older, you kind of start to see the importance of it. You want to see the game grow. And the fact that I got to follow guys like Willie O'Ree, Mike Marson, Bill Riley, Tony McKegney, you see those guys play. And the fact that I can take a step forward from what they created, build off of that. Yeah, first one on the Stanley Cup, first one in the Hall of Fame. I think that just builds on the legacy that they started. And it's just, I was fortunate enough that I get to continue that along.
Do you think the diversity is getting better in the NHL? Do you believe that that is something that's growing in the NHL? I know that Gary Bettman is trying to have policies and trying to also, further that cause of having diversity. Do you like where the NHL is going, or do you think there still needs to be a lot more work?
Well, I think there's always still room to grow, but I think Gary's done a great job of, you see the game grow now. I mean, you take a look through the minor leagues, you take a look at the NHL. Yeah, there's more and more of a diverse group playing. And that's what you want to see. You want to see the game grow. You look where the game is now. We're in Nashville, you're in Florida, you're in places that would never have had hockey 25 years ago. So the fact that the game's growing, you're seeing more ethnic groups play the game. I think, yeah, it's growing. You'd like to see it grow faster, but good things take time.
Absolutely. Grant, let me throw this at you too. The game, you just mentioned it right now. Boy, the ratings have been absolutely fantastic. I mean, it's so compelling right now too when you see some of these barns that you just mentioned, Nashville, one of the greatest barns of all time when it comes to fan excitement when you go and see a hockey game there. Do you believe right now the NHL is in a great place? You think it's in a place that you're seeing really great growth?
Yeah, I think you're seeing good growth. I think you're getting a strong fan base, and obviously a great playoff doesn't hurt. I mean, you're looking at the excitement in the playoffs. You got a Carolina-Vegas final, so that's going to be exciting in itself. But you go to the different rinks, you see the enthusiasm that the fan bases have for the different teams, and that's what you like to see. You want to see full buildings. You want to see fans engaged.
Is Vasilevsky, is he the best goaltender in the world right now, in your opinion, a Tampa Bay Lightning goaltender? Do you believe he's the best in the world?
Yeah, I think he still is. I mean, he's played a lot of hockey over the last few years, so maybe was he not 1,000% going into the playoffs? Probably not. Most guys aren't by that time of year, but I think Vasi's still definitely the top of the heap right now.
So let me go here also. The Olympic break, I talked with Phil Esposito about this and a bunch of people about the Olympic break in the middle of the season, and Espo hated it. He thinks it's like, it really doesn't help. I don't know how you can get around it. What is your take on it when the players went to Milan and then had to come back in the middle of the season? Grant, are you a fan of that?
I'm a fan of the Olympics. Do I think it hurts the product a little bit? Yeah, because your stars don't get a break. I think that's the other thing. Your stars are over in the Olympics. They're playing. You come back, and it's the push for the playoffs. So now the game gets better. The game gets faster. It gets more physical. And your stars haven't had a break yet. So does it fall at an inconvenient time for teams? Yes. Do owners probably panic a little bit because there's always a chance of guys getting hurt, which seems to happen every time? Yes. But is the Olympics still exciting to watch in hockey? Most definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. I loved it here. Grant, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you about, the loss of Claude Lemieux and what that meant to the hockey world. I mean, you saw Wayne talking about it when he was on the broadcast. A true warrior, 4 Stanley Cup champions, former Conn Smythe winner. I mean, if you put and you open up the book, Grant, and you put the name Claude Lemieux in there, and you look for a hockey player, this guy was a hockey player here. I know the Canadians, they celebrated him a little bit, but it shows you what also is behind the scenes a little bit too, on how some of these players, have to deal with the stress of the game and post playing the game. What was your takeaway on the unfortunate passing of Claude Lemieux?
Obviously, it's a sad day for hockey. Anytime you lose somebody in the game, it's a tough day. But you take a look at Claude's career, the one thing you would look at is a winner. He's a guy that if you played against him, you hated playing against him because he was hard to play against. If you played with him, he's a guy you wanted on your team because he's a hard guy to play against. So kind of the ultimate player. And you look at the 4 cups, you win them in different cities, different teams. That tells you a lot about his character. And yeah, it's a sad day for hockey when guys like that pass.
Absolutely there too. Rest in peace for sure. Of all your Stanley Cups and all your Stanley Cup rings, which one's your favorite?
I like them all. I think that's the great thing about them. You know what it is you win them in different ways. You have different guys on the team. The playoffs and the season work out differently. So they're all special in their own way.
Absolutely. Here more with Grant Fuhr here in a second. I want to talk to him about the upcoming Stanley Cup Finals here between Carolina Hurricanes and also absolutely the Las Vegas Golden Knights here with John Tortorella taking over in season here too. But our friends at Morgan & Morgan, the #1 injury law firm in all of America for a reason. It's because they win. They started this over 25 years ago. Make no mistake about it. The #1 injury law firm in all of America for a reason. It's because they win. I tell you about the family in Pennsylvania that was initially offered $650,000. They ended up getting nearly $30 million in settlement. Or the family in Florida that was initially offered $350,000. They got nearly $12 million in settlement. Do me a favor, my friends. This will be the easiest decision you ever make in your life. Go to forthepeople.com/big sales or pound law 529. That's forthepeople.com/big sales or pound law 529. And do me a favor. You tell them Big Sales sent you. Make no mistake about it. These finals are going to be outstanding. Carolina Hurricane with Rob Brindamore, they're on a chance to become a coach and player, win a ring. More with the legendary Grant Fuhr next here on SportsGrid.
Now we have to endure months of manufactured rumors about will he or won't he retire LeBron James. They are probably, Donnie, working on the Decision 2.0 for Amazon Prime as we speak. Is Jim Gray still around? But here is the beauty of the predictive markets. They make insufferable stories about insufferable people highly profitable.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
You can recruit super young talent that may go in the NBA. You can recruit older guys and have them grow up together. But if you want players to stay, either sign them to contracts or treat them well enough where they're going to stay. To me, it's pretty simple. And, a lot of coaches last year had good years and they left skid marks on their schools and nobody said a word.
Outspoken with Dan Sileo, only on SportsGrid.
Mattingly is doing a great job, clearly, right? They're 16-4 since he took over, but we have to remember when Rob Thompson took over for the Phillies and they went 65-46 back in 2022, he finished 5th in NL Manager of the Year that year. So could Mattingly win it? Of course, but he doesn't really have history on his side. I'm still on Don Kelly 15-1 to win Manager of the Year.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
They're trading right now currently at 74 wins on the season, which means the Kalshi marketplace goes by 5-win intervals. 75-plus wins for those Houston Astros. That's a 49% contract to the yes, which a $100 investment pays back $205, Greg. I'm not high on this team. Look, again, 75 wins for the Astros is terrible, but this team might not even look the same as where we stand today by the time we get to that deadline.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
Okay, so I just got an education. Excuse me. It's 5 Stanley Cups for Grant Fuhr here. I don't want to shortchange anybody. Hey, Grant, what's that like getting your name on the cup like that and having your name there on that cup 5 times?
You know what? As growing up as a kid in Canada, it's everybody's dream. So it's fabulous to have it once. It's better to have it twice, but it's great to have it 5 times.
Okay, so you won't answer the question, which one's your favorite. Where are these rings?
I've got one with me down here in California, and I've got 4 in a safety deposit box sitting in Edmonton still.
Do you go back to Edmonton much? Do you go back and support the team? Do you go back, you guys that were on that Glenn Sather team, do you guys go back a lot?
I do. I'd like to pop back to Edmonton. I've got a daughter and granddaughter there, so I like to pop into the city. Still got a bunch of friends I grew up with, so I like to go see them, and I'm still an Oiler fan, so that's the other good thing. I get to go watch some hockey when I pop back up.
Okay, so wait a minute. We had Warren Moon on a couple months ago. We had Warren Moon on. So when you were up there winning Stanley Cups, the Edmonton Eskimos were winning Grey Cups up there at the same time. So Edmonton, the city of champions, when you were playing up there, what was it like up there living in Edmonton at that time? Because they were dominating the CFL, right? If I'm not mistaken, and you guys just started beginning of dominating the NHL coming off those series against the Islanders, and you would go on to win those cups. What was it like living up there then?
Great city to win, and there's no question about that. And no, at that time, the Eskimos were a dynasty. They were the top of the heap there in Edmonton. Warren Moon, who else? Dave Fennell. They had a bunch of guys that were great football players. And I know I went and watched a lot of their games. They watched a lot of our games. I spent a lot of time hanging out with some of their guys. Joey Holloman was a really good friend of mine. So we both cheered for each other, and there's a reason they called it the City of Champions.
Absolutely. How many Stanley Cups do you think you left on the ice with the breakup of the team at the end? If Gretzky doesn't leave for Los Angeles and you start to see the breakup of the team, if they had been able to keep that team together, we're seeing that right now in San Antonio. They got a bunch of kids on there that are 22 years of age that are going to the NBA Finals in that San Antonio Spurs. You guys were so young back in the day and won so much. If they could have kept that team together, Grant, how many Stanley Cups would it rivaled what the Canadians did when they were back in the day?
I don't know if we'd have rivaled Montreal or not because they won an awful lot, but I think there was probably another 3 or 4 in that group if we'd have kept everything together.
Wow, 4 more Stanley Cups, winning 9 maybe potentially. All right, so let's go to the finals here. John Tortorella takes over this team late. Now, Grant, he could become just the 8th coach in the history of the NHL to take over a team late in the season and win a Stanley Cup. And we know he won a cup when he was back with Javi Bullen and the Tampa Bay Lightning. And you got Rob Brind'Amour here, who won a cup as a player with the Hurricane and also now has a chance to win it as a coach. How do you see this finals here, and who do you like in this finals?
I think it's going to be a long series. I think it could be 6 or 7 games. And you know what? It's going to be a toss-up. I think both teams play a very hard style of hockey, and I think it's going to be fun. And for me, it's fun to see Carter Hart. He's played extremely well, and a healthy Freddie Anderson. I'd always thought Freddie Anderson was a great goalie. It was just a matter of being healthy. So for me, it's going to be a fun goalies duel.
And you know what, too? I would say this, too. When you have a guy like Brind'Amour, are you surprised the way that style of play that he had and how tough he was? You could see how he's how he's really brought his influence into that team. I would say this, watching him coach that team right now, he kind of coaches it like he played. You saw it also in the Eastern Conference Finals, even with Marty St. Louis, and Marty brought that energy to the Canadians as well. But that's probably not a shocker what Brind'Amour has done with that Hurricanes team.
No, not at all. I mean, I think a team takes on the coach's personality, and you watch Carolina play. They roll the 4 lines. They play hard. It's exactly what Rob did when he played. I think that's the thing that you look at is he was a hard-nosed player. There was no gray areas. You did everything right. And you look at Carolina, they play the same way. So I think they've taken on the personality of their coach.
What do you think happens to Connor McDavid up in Edmonton? Do you think they find a way to be able to keep him up there? Or do you think, again, we see another exodus here with Gretzky? Or do you think they're going to do everything they can to try to keep him there?
Well, I think they're going to do everything they can to keep him there. He's obviously a big piece of that team. He's a big piece of the city, and you want to see the team win. So they've got a couple of things they still need to fix up there, and I'm sure they're going to do everything they can to do that because you know what? Once you start winning, good things happen.
Grant, every football player has his nemesis. Every baseball player or pitcher has his nemesis. When you played, was there a dude that every time he was on the ice, he always gave you fits in net? Was there one guy you played against, and why?
Well, obviously Mario was hard to play against. He had the big reach and smart. Pavel Bure was hard to play against because of his speed. And Alex McGillney was hard to play against because he had all the above. So the fun part as a goalie is you can't really pick one guy because different teams give you a harder time than other teams. And it's more of a team game than anything.
Grant, when you're in the playoffs, is it really momentum? Do you believe in momentum? Like goaltenders get into this great stretch of playing in net. And sometimes you see them giving up between the 5-hole. You see them giving up these weak goals at times. Do you get into those momentum stretches? Do you believe in that? And sometimes that's why you see some goaltenders take a team all the way to the Stanley Cup Finals.
Oh, definitely. Momentum's a huge part of hockey. And I think as a goaltender, if you can make a save at the right time, it can change the momentum of a hockey game. And you'll see teams feed off of that. And you could be down a goal, down a couple of goals, you make a huge save. All of a sudden your team feeds off of that. They go back and score. All of a sudden the momentum's on your side again. So definitely in the playoffs, goalies make a difference in every game.
Finally here for you, post-hockey, how's life for Grant Fuhr been?
You know what? I'm having a lot of fun. I'm doing some TV and radio down here for the Coachella Valley Firebirds. So having some fun with that and still doing a lot of charity work with my wife, and life is pretty good.
Boy, I'll tell you, 5 Stanley Cups, the first African-American goaltender to put his name on a Stanley Cup. What a legendary career. And Grant, I can't thank you enough for doing this. I mean, it's always fun to talk to you. It's always fun to catch up with you. Thank you so much, my friend.
My pleasure, Dan.
You bet. The legendary Grant Fuhr, 5 Stanley Cups. Imagine having your name on that thing 5 times and winning with that group of guys that he won with Messier and with Gretzky. Incredible. We will talk Jackson Dart and the ramifications that has on the Giants. Next year on SportsGrid.
We have to endure months of manufactured rumors about will he or won't he retire LeBron James. They are probably, Donnie, working on the Decision 2.0 for Amazon Prime as we speak. Is Jim Gray still around? But here is the beauty of the predictive markets. They make insufferable stories about insufferable people highly profitable.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
You can recruit super young talent that may go in the NBA. You can recruit older guys and have them grow up together. But if you want players to stay, either sign them to contracts or treat them well enough where they're going to stay. To me, it's pretty simple. And, you know, a lot of coaches last year had good years and they left skid marks on their schools and nobody said a word.
Outspoken with Dan Sileo, only on SportsGrid.
Job, clearly, right? They're 16-4 since he took over, but we have to remember when Rob Thompson took over for the Phillies and they went 65-46 back in 2022, he finished 5th in NL Manager of the Year that year. So could Mattingly win it? Of course, but he doesn't really have history on his side. I'm still on Don Kelly 15-1 to win Manager of the Year.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
They're trading right now currently at 74 wins on the season, which means the Kalshi marketplace goes by 5-win intervals. 75-plus wins for those Houston Astros. That's a 49% contract to the yes, which a $100 investment pays back $205, Greg. I'm not high on this team. Look, again, 75 wins for the Astros is terrible, but this team might not even look the same as where we stand today by the time we get to that deadline.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
This Jackson Dart and Donald Trump rally story just seemingly won't go away because more people like to make small things into big things. And, both players, Abdul Carter from the New York Giants and also Jackson Dart from the New York Giants, now have to sit and answer questions to the media here. Jackson Dart addressed teammates in a meeting yesterday to discuss his introduction of Donald Trump this last week, and other team members spoke up. Now, listen, this story to me is a nothing burger. It really is. It's an absolute nothing burger because more people on the outside are going to make more of this than what this really means. Jackson Dart has every single right to introduce the president of the United States. I would also, but I don't care what the president's name is. I don't care if it's Ron DeSantis. I don't care if it's Donald Trump. I don't care if it's Joe Biden. The president of the United States asked me, I'm doing it. I've had the fortune of going to the White House. I didn't think 10 seconds who the president of the United States was, nor could I care who the president was. It was all about my team being honored. It was all about being asked to be honored. Now, I will say this, Abdul Carter had a very interesting response when the media, and I got to say this about the New York Giants before we hear this soundbite from Abdul Carter. I got to hand it to the Giants PR department. They allowed these players to get front and center and answer these questions like men. And these guys, I really think, handled it pretty well. I think both men have handled it well. I think Jackson Dart has handled it well. And I think Abdul Carter's handled it well. When he was asked a question, here was his retort on Jackson Dart introducing Donald Trump at a rally.
So first off, I want to say that some things are bigger than football, and this is one of those things. Jackson is one of our leaders. He's the face of our franchise. He not only represents himself and what he does, but he represents all of us. And that goes for anybody who wears a Giants uniform. But if he chooses to align himself with a man like President Trump, it's my responsibility, based on what I believe and what I stand on, to not only show my teammates that I'm against that, but to show the world. And that doesn't mean that we have to spread hate. It doesn't mean that me and Jackson hate each other or we have beef. I sit next to Jackson every day, every team meeting, we close, we talk. As long as we make sure we got the same goal as a team and our goals align, which they do, and I feel like that's all that matters. So I just want to move past this, and yeah, that's it.
I don't have a problem with that response. I think that response is actually a professional response. Look, you could disagree inside of a locker room with a political belief, a religious belief, a sexuality issue. Nobody's going to judge people on it as long as you're on a team in the same rowboat rowing in the same direction. That's what this all comes down to. Hey, dialogue in a locker room is how you grow in locker room. I think something like this may end up actually galvanizing the New York Giants. At first, I thought it was a little immature in the way that Abdul Carter posted it on X, and the same way with Jackson Dart. But hearing men talk and hearing the Giants allow these guys to be questioned by the media, I think they've answered it perfectly. Abdul Carter has every right to that position himself. Look, in our country, we have a right to be wrong. We have a right to be right. You don't have that right. And when you're hearing people like Dan Libetard talking about how the New York media should be more angrier at Jackson Dart for his position, he misses the entire Abdul Carter position. Abdul Carter's position is right. We don't have to hate one another. I just completely disagree with you. But yet you got people like Dan Libetard who are sitting there telling you that his position is absolutely wrong and he shouldn't have it. Hey, Dan, the reason that you have that position and the reason that you have that opinion is because we all can have a dialogue that maybe we disagree or we agree with. You don't have to spark hate. There's no reason for it. We have lost that in this country, to be able to have a conversation. Hey, I can't stand Donald Trump. Hey, I love Donald Trump. But when you make those comments like that, for some reason, people all of a sudden, they categorize you and they judge you based on that. We can agree to disagree. I mean, that's dialogue. That's debate. That's healthy. There's no issue with that when it comes to people having a different opinion of you. As Dave Chappelle says, How far do I have to go to make you feel better about yourself and your life? How much do you want to change me in that process? I'm with that. I don't get why I have to change my way of thinking to make you feel better about yourself. And I think both men have handled it exactly the way it should have been. I actually admire Abdul Carter's position, and I absolutely admire Jackson Dart's position. This is what America used to be. This is what America is not right now when you look at the media and how they're attacking these guys. All right. We'll ask Jason Cole, NFL Hall of Famer, his take on that. That's next here on SportsGrid.
Now we have to endure months of manufactured rumors about will he or won't he retire LeBron James. They are probably, Donnie, working on the Decision 2.0 for Amazon Prime as we speak. Is Jim Gray still around? But here is the beauty of the predictive markets. They make insufferable stories about insufferable people highly profitable.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
You can recruit super young talent that may go in the NBA. You can recruit older guys and have them grow up together. But if you want players to stay, either sign them to contracts or treat them well enough where they're going to stay. To me, it's pretty simple. And, you know, a lot of coaches last year had good years and they left skid marks on their schools and nobody said a word.
Outspoken with Dan Sileo, only on SportsGrid.
Mattingly is doing a great job, clearly, right? They're 16-4 since he took over, but we have to remember when Rob Thompson took over for the Phillies and they went 65-46 back in 2022, he finished 5th in NL Manager of the Year that year. So could Mattingly win it? Of course, but he doesn't really have history on his side. I'm still on Don Kelly 15-1 to win Manager of the Year.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
They're trading right now currently at 74 wins on the season, which means the Kalshi marketplace goes by 5-win intervals. 75 plus wins for those Houston Astros. That's a 49% contract to the yes, which a $100 investment pays back $205, Greg. I'm not high on this team. Look, again, 75 wins for the Astros is terrible, but this team might not even look the same as where we stand today by the time we get to that deadline.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
All right, one of my favorite people on the planet, been friends with him for over 3 decades, is Jason Cole, Hall of Fame voter. And so you'll have to excuse me, as I was getting Jason on, I was getting reprimanded by my wife for my take just now. And Jason, you know, I know you're shaking your head yes here. Jackson Dart and
I love Mama Sileo.
Abdul Carter. You love Mama Sileo?
Mama Sileo.
Yeah, give me your take on this and give me your position on this, Jason, and how you think, first and foremost, the New York Giants have handled this. And, you know, moving forward, do you think this is going to be an issue, or could it galvanize those guys this year going into the season?
Depends on who attacks them. If they get attacked from the outside, it'll galvanize them. If there's a problem inside the locker room, it'll split them. Ultimately, I don't think that most guys care in most locker rooms. And the guys who do care, they usually will talk it out. And the other thing is, at the end of the day, now, there are times in locker rooms that politics can create problems. The OJ thing was a big problem in most locker rooms, okay? But that was a lot to do with race, okay? Trump has race, but the biggest problem that guys have with it. It's the line, the talking, all these other that aren't so personal, if that makes sense, right?
Yes. Jace, we're having a little bit of a connection issue here, there a little bit here. So again, right now, if we can see if we can get reconnected here. Jace, give us a little bit more here of that. Again, what you just said. You think there'll be an issue moving forward?
No, I don't think there's going to be a big issue, because I don't think it's the kind of topic that generally splits a locker room. And that's like, again, like OJ locker rooms. That's a problem. Okay. What was the other one? Like, I've seen this happen a couple times. A guy sleeps with a guy's wife or girlfriend. That splits a locker room. I've seen that 4 or 5 times easily, right? That has a real big effect on a locker room because it puts guys against each other and really pits them, and it hits an emotional stake for a lot of guys. But this one's not really like that, and they've talked it out. And I think, again, if they get attacked from the outside, which is the media criticizing them, guys tend to rally around their teammates if they get attacked from the outside. If they get attacked from within, if they attack each other, that's a different thing. And I don't think that's going to happen. And my own personal take is, I'm grown up to know that, when you have 50, 53, 55, 60, 70 guys in a locker room, they don't all agree. And I don't mind talking to guys about politics, even if I don't like Trump, we don't. And I'm a Sileo, and I'm on her side with this whole thing. But I don't like him, but what? I got to play with the guy. I got to be on a team. We got issues to deal with.
All right, here, Jace, we're going to hold you here. We got to see if we can reconnect here a little bit here, and hopefully we get a better connection here with Jason Cole here, because I thought Jason was making some really great comments here. And again, listen, I happen to agree with him, what he's saying. And again, I think both parties, I think they talked it out. Both guys said we have no issues with one another. They got lockers right next to each other. And I'll give you guys just a storyline. Hey, what Jimmy Johnson would do in our locker, he would have a circle locker. And inside that locker room, everybody got a chance to look one another in the eye and work out our issues. Did we talk politics? Yes. Did we talk religion? Yes. Did we talk sexuality? Yes. We did that all in our locker room. But when 310 hit and we went out to the field, we were all rowing in the same direction. Everybody had a different idea about what political leader was right, what political leader wasn't right. So again, I think you look at that scenario there, and let's go back to Jason here. And Jason, you think this thing could be something that could help the New York Giants this year?
No, I don't think it's going to help them. There's not a positive thing coming out of this where guys disagree and then they have ultimately some kumbaya moment. It's just more that they tolerate each other. Now, if they get attacked viciously by somebody close to the team, like if Mamdani were to attack them, or if some other organization were to attack them that they kind of view as an enemy in some way, yeah, that could work. But I don't see that happening. I think it's just going to die a death and fall by the wayside, like with most things. It's sort of like the Vrabel-Rossini thing. Everybody talks about whether that's a distraction. It's a distraction in the offseason because there's nothing to talk about. There's no football to talk about. Now, if you get into the season and Jackson Dart's terrible or Carter's terrible, then people will come back and they'll blame this for it, or they'll say there's some reason why. But that's not it. It just happens because they might be terrible, and that's the way that it works.
Jason, I want to go back with your position because I didn't get a chance to get a clear take on your position on the Jackson Dart and Abdul Carter case here. You were talking about how you see it. Personally for you, I know you're not a fan of Donald Trump here, but you're a fan of dialogue going back and forth. But give me your position.
Look, if I was in a locker room, I wouldn't care. I mean, again, I'm old enough, grown up enough to know that you got 50 to 70 guys in a locker room. They're not all going to agree. And the only way that you get any kind of discussion going is that, you listen to somebody else. So I want to hear somebody. I mean, now I may say to them, "Oh, you're dead wrong," and I may talk loud because it's just like your wife being in your ear the way she should have been. She's going to be kind of loud, right? And she's going to tell you what an idiot you are because that's how that works, right? Okay, but she's going to do it in a way that's playful, right? And she's going to do it in a way that you got to hear it. And your friends are going to do that with you too, right? And those are private conversations. When you have them out in public, it's a whole different thing. When you because then everybody else judges the conversation. But in the privacy of a locker room, like, we can go back and forth and we can talk about stuff. I mean, we could have a private conversation, off air, where we could really, lay into each other a little bit, but we're friends enough that, we're going to come back from that and we're not worried about it.
Absolutely. And I got to tell you, Jace, how about the Giants and the way they've handled it? I mean, they put these guys front and center out there where a lot of teams might be afraid. There was Abdul Carter. He gave his position, and I actually liked his position. And Jackson Dart answered the questions too. I mean, the Giants wanted to go away. The best way to keep it going, right, is to kind of like breadcrumb it. They put those guys out there. I got to hand it to the Giants. I think the Giants are trying to kill the story by putting these guys out there front and center.
Right. Because they said, we'll talk about this one time, and then we're done with it. It's sort of like we talked about the Vrabel thing a month ago, right? When Vrabel refused to answer questions. It's the biggest mistake you can make because you didn't give everybody a chance to ask you questions and see what your position was. You were afraid. You backed off. They didn't do that in this case. They let those guys face the music. And I don't know if that was John Harbaugh, but that's what happened.
Do you believe, speaking of that, it's now coming out that Mike Vrabel may take some more time away from the New England Patriots. You think he coaches that opener against the Seahawks? Hey, Jace, hold that there. Yes. I'm going to ask you that. Hold on here. I'm going to ask you that when we come back out of the timeout. We got a great connection now here with our friend Jason Cole, and we're going to take his thoughts on that because now there's a new report coming out that we have Mike Vrabel saying that Vrabel may not be around the franchise that long, and he may be taking some additional time off. So we'll see if he ends up coaching that football team come the opener against the Seattle Seahawks. We're going to talk with Hall of Fame voter and our friend Jason Cole. More next right here on SportsGrid.
I know you didn't. Talk!
I'm innocent. Got the wrong guy. It wasn't me. I didn't do anything. Okay, it was me. I did it.
Bringing an owl to an interrogation? That's a power move.
Every time.
Yeah. Hiring America's largest injury law firm for your injury? That's also a power move. Morgan & Morgan, America's largest injury law firm.
We are talking to our friend, Hall of Fame voter Jason Cole here with us. I'm so privileged to be able to be friends with him for over 3 decades right now, and one of the most plugged-in men when it comes to the National Football League. What are you expecting, Jason, on Monday? Are you expecting an early move of A.J. Brown from the Philadelphia Eagles, or do you think that Howie Roseman, the GM of the Eagles, is going to play this out and maybe listen to some teams that could parachute in, like, say, Kansas City or the Los Angeles Chargers?
I think it's going to take a little while still. I mean, otherwise we'd know there was a deal in hand. I think because he's going to try and bluff whoever's the best bid right now, he's going to try and bluff them into just a little bit more. Now, he can't wait too long. He can wait maybe a day or two, because if he waits too long, then everybody knows he doesn't have a deal. Like, you can only play the game of, oh, I'm gonna pull the trigger right now unless you acquiesce to my demands. You can only do that so many times. It's sort of like, to go back to what we were talking about before, and I'm not trying to analyze this. It's like when Trump says we're going to bomb the crap out of them unless we do this. It's like, well, you said that 4 times, right? You're not doing it. You're not, we're calling your bluff. You're not doing it. Otherwise, you would have done it already. With Howie Roseman and A.J. Brown, he can say, well, I got a better offer. I got a better offer. Well, then take the better offer, because this is all I'm willing to do on the deal. And so eventually he has to acquiesce. And I think it'll take maybe a day or two, but it's not going to be very long.
Do you think it's because A.J. Brown doesn't want to play football with Jalen Hurts any longer in that style of play? I'm going to give you some numbers here, Jace. In 2021, the passing offense was ranked 28th. In 2022, it was ranked 8th. In 2023, it was ranked 16th. In 24, when they won the Super Bowl, it was 29th. And last year, it's 23rd in passing. I mean, here's a guy that's a diva wide receiver. I mean, he wants numbers and targets.
He wants the ball. He wants the ball. Yeah. He wants the ball. He has to share a lot, because not only is there Saquon, not only does Jalen run the ball, not only, there's Goddard gets the ball, Smith gets the ball. You got a lot of mouths to feed in that offense. And you have a receiver who's not going to force the ball. Like, A.J. Brown is the kind of guy who, gets on the field and says, throw me the ball. I don't care if you think I'm covered. I'm going to get the ball. That's the old Randy Moss thing. Like, if I'm one-on-one with a guy, I'm not covered. They can't stop me. And even if I'm doubled a lot of time, I can't be stopped. That's A.J. Brown's mentality. I think, like, the other thing that you have to say is A.J. Brown has made too many, like, sideways remarks that have been too much of a distraction, that you can't let that continue to go on. And I think it was also made clear that when Jalen didn't go to his wedding, it's not necessarily a big slap in the face, but it's an indication that they don't want to really work together. Because if you really like your teammate, unless you have something that's major going on with your family, you make time to go to see a guy's wedding. If it's one of your top receivers, you go. That's what you do when you're that guy. So I think it's pretty obvious that this thing is, going to come apart fairly quickly, and that the Eagles don't want it to deal with much longer, just as long as they get their price.
I want to go back and finish up, because I didn't let you finish up on this, on Vrabel coaching the New England Patriots. You do believe that he's going to be the head football coach of the Patriots?
There's no doubt about that. Like, something catastrophic would have to happen. I mean, look, this is all you need to know. Bob Kraft put up with Bill Belichick for the better part of 25 years. 25 years with a guy that he didn't get along with very well, who, he had his problems with. They made it through 25 years. The guy didn't really like. Okay, if he got through 25 years with a guy he didn't like, now he's got a guy that he likes and has one indiscretion. Not a cheating scandal, not a second cheating scandal, not all these other things that happened with Belichick. Like, you're just a disagreeable human being sometimes, but like major scandals that affected football. Do you really think that this is going to get in the way of that? Like, no way, just no way. I mean, the Crafts put winning above ethics, way above ethics. I mean, like Belichick survived Aaron Hernandez. He didn't get fired over that. So what do you think? You think that Vrabel's going anywhere? It's not happening.
Do you think that Bob Kraft runs that team with ethics? Look at himself when it comes to what happened with him in that massage parlor in Orlando. Do you think he runs that team with ethics?
Well, I was in Palm Beach, just so you get the facts right.
Excuse me. I get my maps go out there.
Yeah, and you know Florida. Not that there's much difference between those two. Come on, you answered your own question. Come on, that's a rhetorical question, ain't it? You know, the answer is no.
Yes, Your Honor. Yes, Your Honor.
I already said, the goal there is to win. Everything else be damned. They're there to win, and they're not necessarily wrong. That's the goal in this game, and that's gone on for as long as I've been alive and around the NFL. It's the old Tom Landry expression about, when asked about Dwayne Thomas, it's like, how good is the player? Right? Dwayne Thomas said, I smoke marijuana, and that's against the rules at the time. It was a big deal. And Tom Landry was asked, what do you think of that? He goes, well, how good is the player? How good is the player? That's how the Patriots are run. And that's how 95% of all teams in the NFL are run. How good is the player? And it might be close to 100%. It might be 31 out of 32. I can't even think of what the one is.
Hey, don't let character get in the way. Hey, let me ask you this one on Puka Nacua here. In a minute here, Jace, are they in a good place, the Rams and Puka Nacua right now?
I hope so, because he's a really fun player to watch. He's a really great player to watch, a fun player to watch. But I don't know his personal struggles. I don't know why he chooses to drink. And you have to solve that. Like, why does somebody choose this behavior, which is unhealthy when you're a professional athlete? Now, you're just doing it to be macho. If it's macho, then you can solve that. If it's because it's something deeper and darker, then you got to worry.
Well, I want to thank you for my Sunday here, because I have to answer to Mrs. Sileo now after our conversation here. So, James, thank you very much. Final thoughts next here on SportsGrid.
To endure months of manufactured rumors about will he or won't he retire LeBron James. They are probably, Donnie, working on the Decision 2.0 for Amazon Prime as we speak. Is Jim Gray still around? But here is the beauty of the predictive markets. They make insufferable stories about insufferable people highly profitable.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
You can recruit super young talent that may go in the NBA. You can recruit older guys and have them grow up together. But if you want players to stay, either sign them to contracts or treat them well enough where they're going to stay. To me, it's pretty simple. And, a lot of coaches last year had good years and they left skid marks on their schools and nobody said a word.
Outspoken with Dan Sileo, only on SportsGrid.
Great job, clearly, right? They're 16-4 since he took over, but we have to remember when Rob Thompson took over for the Phillies and they went 65-46 back in 2022, he finished 5th in NL Manager of the Year that year. So could Mattingly win it? Of course, but he doesn't really have history on his side. I'm still on Don Kelly 15-1 to win Manager of the Year.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
They're trading right now currently at 74 wins on the season, which means the Kalshi marketplace goes by 5-win intervals. 75-plus wins for those Houston Astros. That's a 49% contract to the yes, which a $100 investment pays back $205, Greg. I'm not high on this team. Look, again, 75 wins for the Astros is terrible, but this team might not even look the same as where we stand today by the time we get to that deadline.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
You know, one of my favorite football players in the NFL is Lamar Jackson, and Lamar Jackson and I have a great relationship. We go back and forth, and we've spoken numerous times. I was very disappointed when he didn't become a Miami Hurricane. He went to Miami Northwestern down in South Florida. He ended up going to Louisville and, of course, winning a Heisman Trophy. And believe me, I was one of the biggest pessimists of him making it into the National Football League. I never thought he would make it. I saw him in his first year in a playoff game against the Chargers, and he couldn't hit the broadside of a barn. And I said, this guy would be lucky to be in the league 3 or 4 years. Well, I couldn't have been more dead wrong. 2 MVPs, iconic career. You're talking about 4,100 passing yards and 900 rushing yards in the same season, 41 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. This guy's electric. You could make the argument he's easily the most gifted athlete ever to play that position. And by the way, I think he's a hell of a man. He's a centerpiece in the community of Baltimore. He's there always for kids. And I think he's really still with a bright future ahead of him in the NFL. All this being said, and all the glazing we just did on him and how great he is, well, Lamar, you got your wish. You got John Harbaugh fired, okay? You got him fired. You didn't think that he was aiming you in the right direction, having won 2 MVP awards, putting the players around you. Steve Biscotti, the owner of the Baltimore Ravens. Now you got Eric DeCosta, the general manager, along with Ozzie Newsome in that organization. You're working on a $60 million contract extension, which will make you the highest paid player atop of Dak. You're going to get nearly $61 million. Every single thing that you have wanted as a football player is now at your feet. Well, guess what? And what people consider you as, you are now officially the James Harden of the NFL. You can't have these loser postseasons that you've had and go on and think your legacy's not going to be crippled because you couldn't perform in the postseason. James Harden's legacy is crippled because of Mr. No-Show. That's now a moniker that we've given James Harden. As great as he is in the regular season in the NBA, James Harden is Casper the Ghost in the postseason. And we're starting to see a little bit of that of Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson gets into these playoff games, and everyone talks about his iconic ability. And I agree, it's there. You see it. Your legacy is built and cemented in what you do in the postseason. Plain and simple. Dan Marino, Charles Barkley, all these great players that never won championships, that will always be a dent in the fender when it comes to their resume and how people perceive them when it comes to being the greatest players in the history of their respected sport. Do I think there's been a more gifted player athletically than Lamar Jackson in pro football history? No. Do I think what Lamar Jackson has done by knocking the narratives down? Tom Telesco, the former general manager of the Los Angeles Chargers, actually at a combine made Lamar Jackson or told Lamar Jackson, hey, kid, I think you should take another position up. You should run some 40-yard dashes. And he said, absolutely no. Can you imagine that? Nobody asked Tim Tebow to run sprints when he went to the combines. Nobody's going to ask another player to run sprints to potentially play another position. All the things that he's had to face in his career has been remarkable. I've got great admiration for the guy. And I think the guy is a phenomenal face of a franchise. But at the end of the day, Lamar, you've got to put the cherry on top of the cake. You've got to win a championship. He puts a championship next to his name. He will go down as one of the top 5 players ever to play that position. If he does not win a Super Bowl, he will go down as one of the top 5 players who never fulfilled their destiny in winning a championship. That's where he is in his crossroads. All the things that he hoped for and wanted is now here. You got your coach fired. You're negotiating a new contract for 61 large. You got the players around you that you want to move forward. You got a brand new head football coach in the building. Now it's time to deliver. Now it's time to punch that resume with something significant like a Lombardi trophy. That's what's going to cement your legacy. Truly one of the greatest. There is no doubt. Surefire Hall of Fame talent. Surefire Hall of Fame person. He embodies what you want in a face of a franchise. You got to win. And you got to punch that resume with the championship and with a Super Bowl. Because this man here, again, has been given everything he wanted. Now it's time in the 2026 season to go fulfill that destiny. Can't be James Harden. Folks, I appreciate you so much, and I thank you. We'll see you next week. Get you on the flip side.
The UIM Formula One World Championship Series. We are over the moon excited about the upcoming season.
Let's go.
10,000 horsepower roars off the dock. Oh my, there's a problem. On the outside, side by side.
And he's lost control of the boat.
Hopes and dreams of winning here.
Yes!
Get ready for round one. The Regione Sardegna Grand Prix of Italy, May 29th to 31st.
Craig Carton along with Tyrone Johnson. We got great news for you. CraigCartonShow.com. And Tyrone, what do you get if you go to that amazing website?
Well, right now you can subscribe to our upcoming newsletter. You put in your email address, and then bang, you'll get all the new Craig Carton Show content when it arrives.
Not just that, you also get merch drops, exclusive content, and appearances. So again, one more time, that website is CraigCartonShow.com.
That's for Abdul Carter. Hey, son, you want to be a leader? Show up to meetings on time. Don't be late to practice. This guy's sitting there trying to tell me that he's got a problem with Jackson Dart going to a Trump rally when he can't even show up to a meeting on time? And he can't show up to practice and he's late? Dude.
Outspoken with Dan Sileo. Only on SportsGrid.